The old, dilapidated mansion had always been shrouded in mystery. Nestled deep within the dense woods, it stood as a foreboding presence, casting a shadow over the nearby town. Locals whispered tales of a malevolent ghost that haunted its halls, a spirit that could drive anyone who dared to enter to the brink of madness. Dr. Thomas Crawford, a renowned psychologist, had always scoffed at stories of the supernatural. He believed that everything could be explained by science and the human mind. So when he received a letter from a desperate family living near the mansion, begging him to investigate the ghostly occurrences that plagued them, he saw it as an opportunity to prove his beliefs. The Johnson family, the mansion's current residents, greeted Dr. Crawford with a mixture of hope and fear. Their once happy home had become a nightmare. Objects moved on their own, strange whispers filled the night, and apparitions appeared in the dimly lit corridors. Mrs. Johnson implored Dr. Crawford to use his expertise to rid their house of the malevolent presence that tormented them. Reluctantly, he agreed to stay in the mansion to conduct his investigation. Dr. Crawford settled into the mansion, convinced that he would quickly debunk the supernatural claims. He rigged cameras in every room, believing that any disturbances would reveal themselves as mere tricks of the mind or easily explainable phenomena. But as he lay in his makeshift bedroom that first night, the temperature plummeted and the air grew heavy with an unnatural chill. He heard the soft, mournful sound of a woman weeping, her voice echoing through the darkened corridors. Dr. Crawford rose from his bed and followed the sound of the weeping, convinced it was merely a member of the Johnson family. But as he entered the hallway, his flashlight illuminated a figure, a spectral woman in a tattered white dress, her eyes filled with sorrow. The apparition extended a ghostly hand, beckoning him closer. It was then that Dr. Crawford's skepticism wavered, replaced by a gnawing uncertainty. In the days that followed, Dr. Crawford experienced a series of unexplainable phenomena. Furniture rearranged itself, the walls seemed to breathe, and unsettling visions haunted his waking hours. He watched in horror as the apparition appeared before him repeatedly, her eyes pleading for help. Desperate for answers, he delved into the mansion's history and discovered a dark secret, a tragic love story that had ended in betrayal and death. The mansion's history revealed that it had once been owned by a wealthy family, the Hamiltons. It was in those very walls that Elizabeth Hamilton had fallen in love with a young artist, Jonathan Thorne. Their love was forbidden, as Jonathan was from a lower social class. When the Hamiltons discovered their secret romance, they conspired to keep the lovers apart, leading to a series of tragic events that culminated in Elizabeth's untimely death. As Dr. Crawford dug deeper into the mansion's history, he uncovered a pattern of tragedy and betrayal that extended beyond Elizabeth and Jonathan's ill-fated love. Each owner of the mansion had met a gruesome end, driven to madness or suicide. It became clear that the mansion itself was cursed, its very walls steeped in the anguish of the past. Dr. Crawford realized that the malevolent force that tormented the Johnson family was the vengeful spirit of Elizabeth Hamilton, seeking retribution for the injustice done to her. Desperate to free the mansion from the curse, Dr. Crawford decided to conduct a seance, hoping to make contact with Elizabeth's restless spirit. He enlisted the help of a medium, Madame Leclerc, renowned for her ability to communicate with the otherworldly. As the seance began, the room grew cold and the candles flickered. Dr. Crawford and the Johnson family watched in awe as Madame Leclerc channeled the spirit of Elizabeth, her voice filled with sorrow and longing. Through Madame Leclerc, Elizabeth's spirit confessed to the torment she had unleashed upon the mansion's inhabitants. She sought vengeance for the pain she had endured, her heart forever broken by betrayal and despair. Dr. Crawford, overcome with empathy for the vengeful spirit, promised to help her find peace. He vowed to uncover the truth behind her tragic death and bring closure to the tormented souls trapped within the mansion's cursed walls. In his quest to unravel the mystery surrounding Elizabeth Hamilton's death, Dr. Crawford stumbled upon a hidden diary that had been carefully concealed within the mansion's walls. The diary belonged to Elizabeth herself, and its pages contained the darkest secrets of her life. As Dr. Crawford read through the diary's entries, he was confronted with the heartbreaking tale of Elizabeth's forbidden love for Jonathan Thorne and the relentless pressure placed upon her by her family to abandon her affections. The diary revealed that Elizabeth's brother, Nathaniel Hamilton, had been the chief architect of her misery. Driven by a desire to preserve the family's social status and wealth, Nathaniel had manipulated events to keep Elizabeth and Jonathan apart, ultimately leading to Jonathan's exile and Elizabeth's subsequent demise. As Dr. Crawford delved deeper into Nathaniel's actions, he uncovered a chilling truth. Nathaniel had played a role in Elizabeth's death, a dark secret he had guarded for years. Dr. Crawford knew that the key to granting Elizabeth peace lay in revealing the truth and exposing Nathaniel's betrayal. He continued to conduct seances, connecting with the spirits of both Elizabeth and Jonathan, who had been bound to the mansion by their tragic love story. The spirits of Elizabeth and Jonathan implored him to find evidence of Nathaniel's treachery and clear their names, allowing them to finally move on to the afterlife. As Dr. Crawford delved deeper into his investigation, he encountered an unexpected adversary, an even more malevolent presence that lurked in the shadows of the mansion. This entity seemed to feed on the anguish and suffering of the trapped spirits, growing stronger with each passing day. It became evident that the curse afflicting the mansion had multiple layers, with a malevolent force that extended beyond Elizabeth's vengeful spirit. In a daring confrontation with Nathaniel Hamilton's lingering spirit, Dr. Crawford pressed for the truth. Nathaniel confessed to his role in Elizabeth's tragic death and the subsequent cover-up orchestrated by the Hamilton family. But Nathaniel's spirit was not alone. It was accompanied by an even darker force, a malevolent entity that had used Nathaniel as a conduit to carry out its malevolent acts. The malevolent entity revealed itself as the true source of the mansion's curse. It had latched onto the Hamilton family's secrets and exploited the tragedy of Elizabeth and Jonathan's love to perpetuate its dark influence. Now, the entity demanded a sacrifice, one that would allow it to break free from the confines of the mansion and unleash unspeakable horrors upon the world. It threatened to torment not only the living, but also the souls of the deceased if its demands were not met. As the malevolent entity's influence grew, Dr. Crawford found himself in a battle not only against the supernatural, but also within himself. Doubt and fear gnawed at his resolve, and he questioned whether he had the strength to confront the malevolent force. Elizabeth and Jonathan's spirits, bound to the mansion, offered their support, but the entity's relentless presence continued to chip away at his sanity. With the malevolent entity's demands becoming increasingly sinister, Dr. Crawford hatched a desperate plan. He would gather the Johnson family and Madame Leclerc for a final séance, one that would attempt to banish the entity once and for all. He hoped that by uniting the living and the dead, they could summon enough collective strength to confront the malevolent force and sever its hold on the mansion. The night of the final séance arrived, and Dr. Crawford and his allies gathered in the mansion's most haunted chamber. Candles flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls as they began the ritual. As they chanted incantations, the room grew colder, and the malevolent entity's presence manifested itself. It lashed out with all its otherworldly power, seeking to protect its hold on the mansion. In a climactic battle of wills and supernatural forces, Dr. Crawford and his allies faced the malevolent entity head-on. Madame Leclerc channeled the spirits of Elizabeth and Jonathan, and together they unleashed a torrent of spiritual energy. The mansion's very foundations quaked as the entity fought back with relentless fury, but the collective determination of the living and the dead proved stronger. In a blinding burst of light, the entity was banished from the mansion. With the malevolent entity banished, the mansion's curse began to lift, and a sense of tranquility settled over the old house. The once haunted halls echoed with a newfound peace, and the Johnson family, free from torment, felt a profound relief. For the first time in years, The mansion began to show signs of life as the Johnsons started restoring it to its former glory. Dr. Crawford couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction in knowing that he had played a part in redeeming the mansion's dark history. Elizabeth and Jonathan's spirits, now unburdened by the malevolent entity's influence, lingered in the mansion for a short time. They expressed their gratitude to Dr. Crawford for helping them find closure and redemption. As they bid farewell to the living world, their spirits finally found solace and moved on to the afterlife, leaving behind a mansion that was no longer haunted by their tragic love story. Dr. Crawford continued his research into the supernatural, forever changed by his experiences in the haunted mansion. He wrote a book detailing his investigations, which garnered both acclaim and skepticism from the scientific community. While many praised his work as groundbreaking, others dismissed it as the ramblings of a deluded mind. Nevertheless, Dr. Crawford remained undeterred, determined to unravel the mysteries of the supernatural world. Years passed, and the haunted mansion faded into local legend. But just as Dr. Crawford had feared, the malevolent entity's influence was not entirely vanquished. It began to resurface, slowly gathering strength and power once more. Strange occurrences once again plagued the mansion, and whispers of a malevolent force returned, casting a shadow over the town. Distressed by the mansion's renewed haunting, the Johnson family reached out to Dr. Crawford once more. They pleaded for his assistance, hoping that his expertise in the supernatural could once again rid the mansion of its malevolent curse. Dr. Crawford, haunted by the events of his previous encounter, knew that he couldn't turn his back on the Johnsons. He returned to the mansion, determined to confront the malevolent entity once more. As Dr. Crawford delved back into the mysteries of the mansion, he discovered that the malevolent entity sought revenge. It had grown stronger during its absence, and now hungered for retribution against those who had banished it. The entity unleashed a relentless assault, targeting Dr. Crawford and the Johnson family with a series of malevolent attacks, each one more sinister than the last. With the malevolent entity's attacks escalating, Dr. Crawford knew that they had to act swiftly to stop it from fully regaining its power. He reached out to Madame Leclerc and the spirits of Elizabeth and Jonathan, seeking their guidance on a sealing ritual. They explained that the entity had to be sealed away permanently, its power contained in an object that could withstand its malevolence. Together, they embarked on a quest to find the necessary components for the ritual. The components for the sealing ritual were scattered across the town, hidden in places touched by the malevolent entity's influence. Dr. Crawford, the Johnson family, and their spiritual allies set out on a perilous journey to collect them. As they gathered the components, the malevolent entity's presence grew stronger, sending malevolent apparitions and harrowing visions to torment them. One of the crucial components required for the sealing ritual was an ancient relic, the Chalice of Sorrows, said to have the power to contain the malevolent entity's dark energy. To retrieve the relic, they ventured into an abandoned church on the outskirts of town, a place that had been touched by the malevolent entity's darkness for centuries. Inside the church, they encountered a manifestation of the malevolent entity, an embodiment of darkness and despair. It taunted them with the sins of their past, threatening to consume their souls. In a fierce battle of wills, they invoked the power of the Chalice of Sorrows and the spirits of Elizabeth and Jonathan, channeling their collective strength to confront the malevolent force.